So the Acolyte is here, and it has been getting terrible reviews from the fans. Even though some places like Rotten Tomatoes, the company side of it is giving it good ratings, the fans have been getting on it. I think it's like a 30% on there. I think some other polls have put it like a 1.5 out of 5 and everything. It's not looking good. It's not looking good. And I've been seeing people debate back and forth about this entire issue. Some people calling it trash. People coming in saying that those calling it trash just being haters. I gotta say, my opinion on this, it's pretty trash. I'm sorry, it is pretty trash. It's not even just pretty trash. It is really trash, okay? And this video, I'm going to be breaking down my reasons as to why it's trash. Because I'm not just looking at this like, oh, I'm a Star Wars fan. If they don't do things specifically the way I expect it, no, no, that's just dumb. You got to be able to, try new things every now and then. But the problem with this show is it's just a sloppy mess, okay? It's just a sloppy, lazy mess. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So before we get into this, I just want to lay out a couple things. One, this is not me bashing the actors at all. I know some people always complain about bad actors, bad actors. I actually think the actors did just fine with what they were given. The acting side of it, I feel like they delivered the best they could. And they did their thing. And the actual story premise, I think is interesting as well. The problem is how they're telling the story, the structure, the pacing, how the writers and directors have actually put this together and called this something worth watching. It's not. And that's what we're going to get into right now. Okay, so full disclosure, and then spoiler warning. Spoiler warning, I'm going to dig deep. So if you haven't watched this yet, go watch it before you watch this, because yes, we're going right into spoilers. Okay, all right, so let's go ahead and get into this. So first we have the bar scene with May versus Endara, which is fine, kicking things off. A bar scene in Star Wars is pretty much, Star Wars, par for the course, plenty of bar scenes, space style kind of thing. But there's a couple of things that's wrong with this fight. And so number one, Endara spends way too much time messing around in this fight. Because when you watch it, the way it's presented, it's a serious mismatch. May honestly cannot beat her skill-wise. Like, she's dancing around her, but she lets it drag on instead of, capturing the person that's trying to assassinate you so you can bring them in for questioning. I don't know, egregious underusage of her lightsaber. It's like, come on now. You're talking about, you said a Jedi will not, draw their weapon on someone who's unarmed, but she is clearly armed. The moment she pulled her weapons out, you should have pulled out your lightsaber and went ahead and just took her down. Didn't have to kill her, could disarmed her in a very literal sense and then took her in for questioning. This is Star Wars, replace those hands with robotic hands. But no, they have to let it drag on just for the story. And that's actually the real problem here. There's too many moments where they let things drag on just to try to push the story further instead of trying to make it make sense. And then when she does pull her lightsaber out, she actually just doesn't do anything with it. Literally, she just kind of has it out there just waiting. A lot of standing around waiting and doing nothing that's happening here. And then there's this. The obviously hiding a dagger behind your back just so you can throw one dagger, distract somebody, and then throw a dagger and stab her in the heart. This was a terrible idea for them to do it this way. For one, it's not even like there's no cloak or anything. It's obvious that she's hiding something behind her back no matter which angle you're looking at her, okay? That's just too obvious. And then secondly, even if it wasn't that obvious, we're talking about a Jedi Master here. She should have been able to read her intentions and know what she was going to do. And the only thing that could have saved this scene is if it was revealed that she had undergone training to allow her to mentally block out Jedi's perception so they can't read her intentions or read her mind and such. That would have been a decent enough explanation to make this digestible, to make this make sense. Unfortunately, in the very next episode, Thol literally reads her mind so fast it's like he Xerox copied her brain in order to figure out that she did not know the identity of her master. Not to mention, he does this while holding her in midair, employing two techniques on her at once, and she wasn't defending against either of them. Either of them. So if she's that weak, then there is absolutely no way that Endara should not have seen this coming. There's no way that she'd not have been able to read her intentions and move accordingly. This is what we call contradicting yourself when in storytelling. When you tell one narrative presenting her as somebody who's really sneaky and sly, and then you completely just contradict that later on in the story. So yes, this is a fail, a complete fail right here. And then we get to the main character, Osha, which nothing wrong with her. Again, I think the actors are doing a fine job. So she's just doing her thing. This little introduction scene that, you know, they always get. Just doing her normal day-to-day life, just working on a space station, you know, outside in space, working on some machinery. And you would think that this would be a simple scene that they could not mess up. But then we get a space fire. Like, really? Come on now. They're literally outside of space with spacesuits on, and we get a space fire. Like, they don't understand what the vacuum of space is? Or it's just that there was just some oxygen in this one little pocket at that one moment in time. And then we get introduced to two new Jedi, Yord and Jackie, who have, for the most part, proven themselves to be kind of useless and everything, especially completely useless in this beginning scene right here. They show up to let Osha know that she is suspected of murdering a Jedi Master, and they have to bring her in for questioning. Now, there's a couple of things that's really wrong with this scene and how they do this. It's like, one, you guys know that she didn't complete her training, but, you know, she could have found another master and trained in secret, so there's, okay, maybe. But then you admit that this literally happened the day before, but you don't go and check any records. You don't check with her boss to see if she was on that shuttle the day before. You don't actually go and do your due diligence in an investigation. You just tell her, hey, you fit the description. Come in for questioning. I swear, terrible writing here. If they knew on record that she was there, then there would be no reason to even pull her in. So I guess we couldn't push the story forward, right? So we had to make it some kind of way. And then we get to this prison scene, which made absolutely no sense. Number one, what happened to Yord, the Jedi Knight who was supposed to be escorting her back to the temple for questioning? Did he just decide, yeah, no, I'm not going to do my job. I'm out of here. Because she's on a shuttle with other criminals and no supervision other than a couple of guard droids. And come on now, since when have droids been able to do anything as far as like protecting people or guarding people? And then on top of that, she's a suspected Jedi killer, a Jedi Master at that. But no, she doesn't need any extra supervision. They just put her on here and no, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But to make things worse, not only did you put this Jedi Master, the suspected Jedi Master killer, on this ship with no supervision, but you also have her on the ship along with this guy who, how did they not know that he can mess with computers from a distance using whatever Wi-Fi connection he's using? He Bluetooth everything to shut down. How did they not know he could do that? How did they not do their due diligence on this criminal? And secondly, how come nobody paid attention to the Toad knockoff? Like, seriously, again, you put them all on the ship with no supervision but a couple of guard droids that can't really do much, and the actual Jedi that's supposed to be transporting them is just... we don't even get an explanation on where he went, like what he was doing. Like, Yord, you failed miserably. Like, what's going on here? This terrible. And things continue to get worse because now we have to make her look like she's Sabine instead of Osha. So now she's over here trying to use the Force but failing miserably. And I'm like, wait, at what point was she described as somebody who was incredibly weak in the Force? They just said her training didn't go well because of her attachment, not because of low M count or something like that. So why are we really rehashing something that we already did in Ahsoka just for the sake of drama? Oh, she can't pull the device that she needs, so she's going to struggle slightly harder. But why can't she pull it to her? Why can she not use the Force at all? You know, I don't care if it's been 6 years since she's trained, according to the story. You're literally like one of the most basic of basic moves. She can't do anymore. So if you don't train, you become as weak as Sabine? Is that how it works? I don't think so. And then we get the crazy criminal that she decides to save last minute, you know, showing that she's still a good person on the side of the light and stuff like that. Only for him to ditch her and take the final escape pod. But the only thing that's wrong here is that he was under hypnosis the entire time. How did he wake up, know the ship was going down, and know exactly where the escape pod was supposed to be? Again, makes no sense whatsoever. And so with all options completely exhausted, now she just has to brace herself for a crash landing because plot armor, even though this crash she shouldn't survive it. But hey, nothing else makes sense here, so why should this? And then this part is just hilarious to me. The criminals ditched her in their escape pods, and the very next scene, they're at the Jedi Temple, locked away. How? Was there another ship next to them that just scooped up the escape pods? And if there was, how come they didn't go and pick her up when she crashed? Or was it something else? Did the escape pods have like an auto function that just kind of flew them into the prison cell? Like, nothing explained about this. Nothing explained as to why these guys somehow, in the very next scene, are sitting over here in prison. Oh, and I guess they need him to be in prison though, because now that they can now blame Osha for the attempted prison break to make her look even more guilty. Like you see how like they're shoving certain things in here without letting them, happen organically. It's like if something was supposed to happen to make her look worse, this was not it. This, especially knowing these criminals' reputations, why would they even take their word over anyway? But they kind of do. And then we get this scene right here where Osha basically has a vision where she sees her sister, and her sister gives her an ominous message about killing all the Jedi. Now, this would have been good. This would have been decent at the very least, because it could have been like, oh, her evil twin is taunting her. Her evil twin might be trying to, poke and prod at her to try to pull her to the dark side. Until you find out in the very next episode that her sister isn't even aware that she's alive. So, is it just the Force messing with her? Like, this vision and this conversation now makes no sense, because again, you contradicted yourselves in the very next episode. Like, don't set up a premise that you're not going to follow through on. And then here we get Conflicted Soul. No, there's no way it could be May. May is dead. I saw her die.
A few moments later.
Okay, now it's possible. She could be alive. Okay, I believe you now. For real? Really? And then finally, to cap off the first episode, we have May approaching her master while he gives his ominous speech about how an Acolyte should be able to kill a Jedi without a weapon. But then during this entire speech about the weaponless Jedi killers, he brandishes a lightsaber. Like, okay, kind of contradict your own speech there, buddy. Like basically saying, oh, you better be able to kill a Jedi without a weapon, because I sure can't. And then we get to the next episode where things kick off just not making sense. So we have this security droid here watching the door at the Jedi Temple. He's pretty much closed inside the wall the entire time, and a random little girl comes up and throws a rock at it in order to get it to activate, just so May can throw a device on it to shut it back down. But if it was already enclosed on the wall, couldn't you have just walked up and put the device on there anyway to scramble it? Like, again, doing things that make no sense. But I guess they did it this way because they needed the little girl to be there in order to give the description, trying to make things make sense. But again, poor execution. Now, I will admit, this part was actually pretty interesting and pretty cool to see a Jedi Master performing a technique where he has a complete force barrier around him. As long as he stays in meditation, he can't be touched. And she struggles to get past it. I think this scene was pretty interesting. Although she was trying for way too long to break the barrier. It was like, come on now, give it up. You're not getting past it. But this was okay. It was what they did to after the fact that was kind of weird. But moving on. And so now we get to the scene where they can now confirm that Osha did nothing wrong. She is in their custody, and there has been another incident, another attempt. And so now they have definitive proof, but that's not going to stop them from continuing to suspect her, right? Because yeah, we can't use common sense here. Although I will give Yord some credit and everything. He's still suspicious of her, but he doesn't know her name has been cleared yet. He wasn't in the room in that conversation. And Soul could have very easily cleared it up in this scene, but for some reason he doesn't. At least we don't hear him say it. Does he say it off screen? Who knows? But who cares? He's supposed to say it right here. Now this scene right here was actually pretty decent in its own little packaging. Because, she's appealing to his guilt on what happened. We still don't know exactly what happened and what major disaster caused, so much harm. And so we'll be getting to that in future episodes, I guess. But this part actually, makes sense. He's been feeling guilty. That's why he stayed in this meditation to kind of like run away from his guilt. And now he's going to use the poison to pretty much sacrifice himself while at the same time avoiding confessing his sins to the council. So it kind of makes sense and everything, but it's how they play it out, because right after he takes this vial, Soul is able to sense something is wrong. She exactly sensed dude killing himself in this scene. And what do? They decide to take the absolute longest route possible to get to this guy's room. It made no sense. It was like they did an entire lap around the temple. Meanwhile, we have Phantom Child over here letting Osha know the right way, just down the hall and around the corner. How did the people who actually lived there at the temple not know that it was just down the hall and around the corner? Made no sense. The entire time this is happening, they're still walking all the way around the entire temple. They're still just taking their time, and even when they start running, it still takes them forever to get there, because Osha manages to find his room way before they do and has enough time to slow walk to his body and then pick up the vial, just so they can make her look guilty again when she's holding the vial. So again, making her look guilty for no reason after we've already cleared up the fact that she's not the killer. Really? Like, the fact that they're beating on this narrative while at the same time having supposedly already moved past this narrative, it makes no sense. Why are we still doing this? Oh, I know why we're doing this. We need to give Yord a reason to trust her by following her and finding out she really didn't do it, even though they already had the proof that she really didn't do it. Makes no sense. Why are we doing this? Why are we running in circles? Oh, I know why. Because you don't know how to push a story forward. That's why. So you're doing things that make no sense here. And then we get to this weird scene with Quemar when Osha goes undercover to try and get a confession out of him, where he pretty much lets us know that he knew that she was the twin, with him saying, "You look just like her," all calm and confident and stuff, only after he had already confessed their crimes. Like, what? Okay, this another example of terrible presentation. And again, this is not the actors, these are the directors at this point. Because on one, it's either he makes the confession and then realizes it's not her and acts surprised, like, holy crap, you're a twin. Or he doesn't give her any information and in this sly, confident pose lets her know that he knows that she's a twin. It's not you make the confession and then confess that you knew that there was something up the entire time. Doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. And then next up right here, we have Soul arguing with Osha about facing May. Now, I get Soul's reasoning. She hasn't been training, so she's not really prepared to go inside of a situation like this. It makes sense in the beginning, up until he finds out that May doesn't even know that Osha is still alive. That would have been a good time to say, hey, Osha, come around the corner and show her so that we can settle this and bring her in. But no one thinks to do that, right? And then they finally have her completely cornered. She can't go anywhere. It's time for her to surrender. But instead, we get a whole lot of standing around. And then she uses a dust storm in order to blind them and get away. Never mind the fact that Soul was reading all of her movements and scanning her mind for information this entire time, but the moment sand blows up in his face, oh yeah, he can't sense her anymore. He doesn't know what she's doing now. He can't track her anymore. So yeah, I guess that's how it works. That's how you block a force user. Sand. Yes, Anakin was right, huh? And then finally get this scene right here where Osha catches May pulling a GTA in the Star Wars universe and trying to take somebody's car and get away. They see each other. They lock eyes. And instead of them actually coming together and May kind of chilling out and maybe letting herself, come in for questioning, now that she knows that her mission for vengeance is kind of meaningless now that she knows her sister is still alive. But no, she's going to try and take off. Osha is going to intentionally fire and miss, which would make sense until you remember that she has a stun blaster. a stun blaster, which means it's non-lethal. You're not going to kill her. You're just going to capture her. But no, let's just miss and let her go for absolutely no reason at all. Who cares about the fact that she was over here making your life a living hell because, you know, you're over here accused of murdering a Jedi because she murdered a Jedi? But no, we're just going to let her go. That's how we're going to do that. Then we get to this weird argument where Soul is being called back to the Order so that they can strategize their next move. Even though Soul admits they already know where she's heading to next. But no, let's not continue tracking her. Let's not send out a couple extra teams. Let's not, you know, do something immediately. Let's go all the way back to Coruscant and strategize. I don't recall this happening anytime during like Clone Wars or anything else, but I guess this is how the High Republic used to handle things, right? Yeah, let's let things drag on. Let's go back to the council, reconvene, let's discuss. Even though we know what we should be doing next, let's not do that. Let's think of something else. Okay, more just nonsense just to try and push the story further, right? And then we get this final conversation at the end of the episode between May and Quemar where they plan their next move to try and take out the Wookiee Jedi Master. And so what's wrong with this scene? The fact that Jedi have him under surveillance and yet he turns the corner and they can't see him, but they don't notice until they get past their conversation. And when they do notice, they scream, "Where is he? Come on!" Pretty much giving themselves away. Like, just the way they do it is just terrible. It's terrible. But I have to give it to them. This scene with the Wookiee Jedi using force pull to snatch a blaster and then snapping it in half, that was pretty awesome to see. But I just feel like when we do get more screen time with the Wookiee Jedi, they're just going to do something stupid to just make it lackluster. Because that's what they've been doing in all of this. And so, yeah, that's pretty much every major, not just subjectively, but objectively thing that they did wrong. Just in terms of pacing and storytelling with this series thus far. We're only 2 episodes in, all right? And like I said before, the actors, I feel like, did a fine job. The story itself, the idea is interesting, but their execution is just a heavy combination of lazy and sloppy. And it's just they're doing things just to push the story forward that make no sense. It's like they're not even thinking about the narrative, like, oh, if we do this, that contradicts the last episode. Oh, or if we do this, this makes absolutely no sense. Why would the Jedi leave a criminal on a little transport ship by themselves with other criminals and hardly any supervision? Why would Soul say it's impossible for May to be alive? Then 5 minutes later, okay, it's possible she could be alive. You know, why? Like, why? Why are we doing these things? Why is Soul able to read her mind so easily when Indara struggled, apparently, could not read her next move and got stabbed through the heart? So many things wrong with this show in terms of how they're trying to present this story. So many contradictions in just 2 episodes. I'm sorry. Even though I will be following this just to see what they do with it, I have very little faith it's going to be good. And so I guess I'll be back to rag on it some more, I guess. Because, like I said, it's laughable how bad it is. And so it took me a little bit to get this episode out because it's been a really busy week, but I'll try to get the next episode of, you know, breaking down what they're doing wrong here sooner than later. But anyway, let me know your thoughts. Are you enjoying the Acolyte? Do these glaring mistakes bother you, or are you just along for the fun ride and don't really care? Let me know in the comments what you think about this series thus far, and I will see you guys on the next one. All right, so till next time, take care of yourselves. May the force be with you. I'm out of here.